The story of Mick Jagger does not begin with chaos. It begins in a quiet home in post-war England, where a boy named Michael Philip Jagger grew up under the strict discipline of his father Basil Jagger, a former RAF instructor, and the distant gentleness of his mother Eva Jagger. The house was silent, dinner conversations soft, affection rare. But inside that silence, something wild was waiting to be born. At Wentworth Primary School, Mick tapped beats on the desk when the room fell to still. He loved Muddy Waters and Chuck Berry, but classmates mocked him, and even his father dismissed the music as noise. So Mick hid his dreams under a blanket with a flashlight and a spinning record. He whispered songs into the cold night. In those secret moments, he discovered the rhythm that made him feel alive. By 14, rebellion pulsed through him. He slipped into a crumbling tavern, borrowed a dented microphone, and sang until his voice cracked. And though the applause was small, he walked home through the fog knowing he had found something the world could not take. He tried to live the life expected of him. He enrolled at the London School of Economics, studying finance by day while chasing music in smoky Soho bars at night. He was broke, cold, and hungry, but the fire inside refused to die. Then fate struck at Dartford Station on October 17, 1961. There stood Keith Richards, holding a Chuck Berry record. 2 boys, 1 dream. That meeting became the spark that transformed music history. In damp rooms, with peeling wallpaper, they wrote their first songs. They had nothing, no fame, no money, just belief. Soon the world would know them as the Rolling Stones. The road to rebellion was steep. Shows were chaotic, critics dismissed them, and crowds sometimes threw bottles. But Mick wiped the blood from his lip and said, "At least they're listening." And then fame arrived, crushing and glorious. Songs like Satisfaction, Paint It Black, and Sympathy for the Devil turned them into the voice of a restless generation. But fame came with a cost. In 1967, at Redlands, police raided Keith Richards' home, arresting Mick and turning Marianne Faithfull into a scandalized headline. Mick was sentenced to prison before the legendary editorial "Who Breaks a Butterfly on a Wheel" helped overturn the verdict. He walked free, but the experience hardened him. 2 years later came heartbreak. Brian Jones, the brilliant but troubled founder of the Stones, drowned at his home. At Hyde Park, Mick dressed in white and released butterflies in Brian's honor before performing 2000s. The world saw tribute. Mick felt lost. Then came Altamont, the concert meant to be a symbol of peace. Instead, it became a nightmare when Meredith Hunter, only 18, was killed just feet from the stage. Mick later said, "I can still hear the scream." That moment shattered his faith in the innocence of music. The 1970s brought exile, crushed by a 93% tax rate and betrayal from manager Alan Klein. The band fled to the French Riviera, recording Exile on Main St. Inside the decaying beauty of Villa Nelkite. Out of mold, sweat, and chaos came one of the greatest albums ever made. In St. Tropez, Mick married Bianca Jagger, a wedding glittering with stars, royalty, and cameras. But love in exile burned too fast. Their marriage fractured, followed by complicated relationships, children born into distance, and heartbreak shaped by fame's demands. His longest love came with Jerry Hall, who gave him for children Elizabeth, James, Georgia May, and Gabriel, but even she could not withstand the world that followed Mick everywhere. In 1999, after the birth of his son Lucas Jagger with Luciana Morid, Jerry walked away, and then came the loss that nearly broke him. For 13 years, the designer Lauren Scott was his peace, his anchor. In 2014, she died suddenly, leaving Mick shattered. Diagnosed with acute stress disorder, he canceled an entire tour, something he had never done. "A part of me died with her," he admitted. Still, he rose again. At 75, with a failing heart valve, he underwent surgery that could have silenced him forever. But Mick returned to the stage and whispered into the mic, "I'm still here." Soon after, heartbreak struck again. Charlie Watts, the quiet heartbeat of the Stones for nearly 60 years, passed away. Mick said, "I lost my compass." Now at 82, Mick Jagger lives between his West Sussex estate, his New York penthouse, and his Caribbean retreat Stargroves. Surrounded by art from Picasso, Basquiat, and Francis Bacon, and visited by his 8 children including his youngest, Devereaux, he finally knows peace. He no longer chases immortality. He has become it.